Zach lifted his beer, grinning as if he owned the room. Around him, the family laughed. At me, at the quiet pilot everyone assumed they already knew. Their faces turned my way, amused by the joke. They had no idea about the smell of smoke that never leaves you after a mission. They didn't know the sounds of men gasping for air when a helicopter goes down. And they certainly didn't know who Revenant 1 was. I smiled anyway. Silence felt safer than the truth. But that night, as their laughter spread across the backyard, I made a private promise. The next time someone mocked me, I wouldn't stay quiet. My name is Michelle Butler, and that was the last summer I let anyone confuse quiet for weakness. The laughter rolled warm across the yard, the kind usually meant to comfort. That night, though, each chuckle felt like another nail. Zach was mid-story again, preaching discipline and toughness. His words hung heavy, suffocating. Nobody looked at me, not even out of politeness. They already had their version of me. I held my beer can until it burned my palms. The metal creased under my grip, but no one seemed to notice. Maybe they'd forgotten I was there. Maybe that made things easier. The Butler way, loud voices, louder pride, left no room for someone like me. For a long time, silence had been the safer choice. When Zach raised his drink to Captain Roland Butler, pride lit his father's face. I watched them, father and son, mirror images of confidence and noise, and wondered if there'd ever been space for someone who didn't need applause. The smell of salt found me before I realized I'd walked to the beach. Their laughter faded. The waves replaced it. I stood barefoot, water cooling my ankles, and made a quiet promise. Someday that silence that kept me invisible would break. Not with anger, but with truth. I grew up by the coast where people believed 3 rules kept a family intact: stay quiet, work hard, and don't cross the line. By 25, I'd already broken all 3. In our town, Uncle Roland's name meant strength, medals, and barroom stories. He was the legend. Zach was the heir to that legend, and Nee, the woman who flew, was the polite afterthought in their conversations. They liked to talk about heroes, but never to the one at the table. I let it pass. Words were dangerous when the truth I carried was stamped classified. Still, memories crawled back sometimes like tidewater. The cockpit glowing red, the radio spitting panic, were pinned down. Revenant 1, do you copy? My voice, steady, line. Copy, I'm not leaving you behind. Weeks later, back on base, my commanding officer spoke softly. Captain Roland Butler owes you his men's lives. He knows it was you. I froze. So that was the truth hiding in plain sight. The man who raised Zach's pride had once been under my wing. He knew. He chose silence, maybe to preserve the family myth, but the cost fell to Nee. That night, sitting with my father in the dimming light, he murmured, "Some people get applause, others get the sound of engines." It was his way of seeing me, even if no one else did. But that quiet no longer comforted me. It weighed on me like salt in a wound. If Roland wanted silence, I would choose the opposite, light. Later that night, I walked to the beach. The moon was high, sand cold underfoot. Roland sat there, beer in hand, staring at the horizon. He didn't turn when he spoke. "Thank you, Michelle. I know you were Revenant 1. The words were a flare in the dark, bright and brief. I said softly, "I just did my job." "But you could have said something," he sighed. "I didn't want Zach to feel small." "Then you made me smaller instead," I answered. He didn't argue, he only nodded and looked out over the water. "My team still owes you one, but in the service, we don't say thank you out loud. We remember." I studied his profile in the moonlight, this man of silence and command. He wasn't cruel. He was trapped in an older logic where words were weakness. That code they guarded so fiercely was choking the rest of us. I didn't raise my voice. "Keep your silence if it keeps you comfortable," I said. "But the next time someone laughs at me, I won't stay quiet." Roland finally looked at me, his expression softening. "Good," he said. "You've earned the right." Foam lapped our feet. The moon glazed the waves. In that light, the line between love and pride, loyalty and fear, felt clear. I turned back to the house, their laughter faint, and knew this would be the last summer I let silence protect anyone but me. I wouldn't be silent again. 2 years later, I returned different. The confidence I'd earned in the air didn't fit easily into the backyard. The smell of smoke, the country songs, the familiar voices, nothing had changed except me. Zach stood by the grill, already performing. He raised his beer. "Welcome home, Captain Butler. Heard the Navy's keeping you busy with meetings and memos." Laughter hit lead static. I answered, calm and sharp. "Depends on the altitude." The noise thinned. Even the wind seemed to pause. Roland watched, a mix of pride and warning passing across his face. I sat there and watched the same patterns repeat. Everyone praising Zach's gym, his training, while no one asked about me. I was still the polite relative who didn't interrupt. Then Sergeant Mason Hale, one of Roland's old SEAL buddies, slapped Roland's shoulder and joked. "Remember that pilot who saved your team off Mogadishu? Cap, what was her call sign again?" The air froze. Roland forced a grin. "Revenant 1, hell of a pilot." My pulse stuttered. He said it like a confession. No one noticed but me. He looked away. His silence had shifted from arrogance to guilt. Zach laughed on, oblivious. "At least that pilot's got guts. Some folks only fly simulators." I set my drink down and said, "Some of us fly where there are no do-overs." The words landed and cut through. I stood and walked to the beach before anyone could answer. Roland followed with a heavy gaze. The storm wasn't in the sky. It was at the table waiting. That night's heat felt different. Fireworks burst over the water as Zach bragged, showing off his tough guy routine. The sound scraped my chest. My mother stirred lemonade and offered a faint smile. "Roland's son is doing so well. You flying those planes is nice too, honey. So dangerous." I gave a smile that cracked before it reached my eyes. Outside, Zach saw me. "Hey, Michelle, maybe next year you'll join us for real military training." Laughter erupted again. Even Roland stayed quiet. Then Evan, Zach's boy, asked, "Dad, isn't Aunt Michelle in the military too?" The laughter cut off. Zach forced a chuckle. "Well, not that kind of military." I crouched to Evan's height and said, "Maybe one day you'll understand what kind really means." He nodded, wide-eyed. His innocence struck me harder than any insult. Later, I found Roland alone at the kitchen table, hand trembling around a half-empty beer. "You know this isn't harmless, right?" I said. He nodded. "I just don't want this house to turn into a battlefield." "Your silence already did," I told him. He studied me, the weight of years in his eyes, then said, quietly, "Maybe it's time someone else fired the first shot." Outside, another round of fireworks cracked the sky. Smoke curled against the glass. In the reflection, I saw myself, steady, not small. The next time they laughed at me, I wouldn't shrink back. I would let the truth detonate. ... 3 years after that summer, I came home again. The Florida air was thick with heat and salt. Captain Roland Butler's 60th birthday looked like a reunion of legends. Old SEAL brothers, neighbors, relatives. Zach dominated the circle, loud and shiny, retelling training stories. When he saw me, he raised his beer with the same grin. Michelle's back. "Hey, Commander. Still flying the desk, huh?" Laughter rippled through the yard. I set my glass down slowly and met his eyes. "Still flying, Zach. Just not as low as you think." The laughter died. Roland's jaw tightened. Warning and respect crossed his face. Zach tried to laugh it off. "Relax, I'm kidding. You know I love you, right?" "You love the sound of yourself," I said softly. A drunk vet cut in. "You military too, sweetheart? What's your call sign?" Faces waited for me to play along. I took a breath. "Revenant 1." The laughter vanished. A veteran's voice broke the silence. "Wait, you were the pilot in Mogadishu?" Roland stood, shoulders throwing command back into him. "Zach, apologize now." Zach blinked, nervous. "Dad, it's just a joke." "Apologize for what?" Roland demanded. The color drained from Zach's face. "You mean her? She flew through fire so we could come home," Roland said. And you laughed at her. You didn't ask. When Zach whispered, I didn't know, the air hummed with truth. It's fine, I said, though neither of us meant it. Roland's eyes met mine, shame and pride mixed. He reached into his pocket and put a brass coin in my palm. To the one who flew through fire, you earned this years ago. I should have given it then. Fireworks burst again, their noise swallowed by the hush. Later, I drove along the coast, windows down. The night smelled of salt and smoke. The coin glinted in passing headlights. I felt clean, not angry. Something inside had finally loosened. Roland's truck pulled up behind me. He walked to the water, sleeves rolled. Not the captain now, just a man. You shouldn't have had to wait for me to speak, he said. But you did. He handed me a folded mission report. Operation Revenant. My name was on it, blacked out under thick ink. They had classified it, but they hadn't forgotten my call sign. He took a breath, eyes glassy. I thought silence would protect you. I was wrong. It only protected my ego and Zach's. He pulled another coin from his pocket, old and worn. This one's from my team. We kept it for the day we could thank you. I held both coins, metal warmed in the moonlight. We're good, Captain. Just don't stay silent again. He nodded toward the waves. No more silence. When I turned to leave, he added quietly, Zach's not angry at you. He's angry at himself for not earning what you did. Then maybe it's time he learns how to earn something real, I answered. The wind shifted cool. I closed my fingers around both coins. The tide rolled in and took the night's last sounds away. No more silence. 3 years later, I stood on the runway at Pensacola. Sun flashed off metal and brass. I had been called to receive a Navy commendation for outstanding joint operations. This time, it wasn't secret. Hangar doors were open, cameras rolling, the band steady. Scanning the crowd, I froze. Roland was there in an old SEAL uniform, ribbons faded, shoulders square. He'd never come to anyone's ceremony before. The air thickened like history folding back on itself. When applause faded, he walked up holding a worn SEAL cap. You make the uniform look better than any of us, he said. I smiled against a lump in my throat. Don't exaggerate, Captain. He straightened and saluted. The crowd stilled. A few SEAL veterans followed, heads bowed. I returned the salute. No words were needed. This acknowledgement had taken 10 years. After the ceremony, he handed me a faded photo. Him as a young officer, beside a pilot whose face was washed out by sunlight. Never got her name, he murmured. Now I know why. That night my phone buzzed. Saw the video. You deserved it. Proud of you. It was Zach. The message was short and honest. Tears blurred the reflection on metal. My eyes filled, not with pain, but with peace. 2 generations, 1 salute. Finally, there was no silence between us. A year later, summer returned softer. The Butler backyard no longer rang with bravado. Only the grill's crackle, rustling leaves, and children chasing each other. Zach had changed. He worked with Veterans Outreach, helping soldiers transition home. His voice carried something different. When I walked in, conversation stopped. I wore a simple uniform, no medals, just service. Zach rose and smiled without trying to impress. Everyone, meet Commander Butler, the pilot who brought my father home. Applause rippled warm and real. Roland stayed quiet, eyes shining. My mother leaned in. Finally, people know who you are. That's not why I came, I said. Evan, 6 and full of wonder, ran up and tried to stand like a soldier. Dad says you flew through storms to save people. I knelt. I just didn't leave them behind. The words opened something. Roland's composure slipped. Tears ran down his cheeks. Zach put a trembling hand on my shoulder. I should have known better, he said. Now you do, I answered, smiling. Not out of pride, but release. Later, as the sky went gold, Roland found me on the porch. He offered the old SEAL coin. This belongs with you, always did. I looked at Evan, who watched the glint in Roland's hand. Keep it, I told him. Let him see it every day. Let him know what it means. Roland placed the coin in the boy's palm. The sunset caught the metal and light danced into the trees. For a moment, everything, the laughter, the quiet, the history, felt whole. Zach watched the light play over his son's hand and then at me. Guess we both found what we were looking for. Respect? I asked. Peace, he said. The last toast faded. Only the evening's warmth remained. The silence after that wasn't empty, it was earned. 12 years had passed since that first summer when laughter cut deeper than silence. I returned to Jacksonville on leave, driving the coastal road lined with pines and salt wind. The old Butler house stood, paint sun-faded, its porch a gallery of lives. Photos of Roland in uniform, of Zach with veterans, of Evan beside his father. Tucked between them, a smaller frame, me in my flight suit, sunlight on my helmet. Below it, a handwritten caption, Revenant 1, Family of the Brave. Inside, Evan, now 18, tall and deliberate, wiped the glass that protected the seal coin. He turned to me. Aunt Michelle, were you scared that night? Yes, I said. But courage isn't the absence of fear, it's flying anyway. He smiled, a mix of curiosity and pride. Dad says bravery runs in the Butler blood. No, I told him, it runs in choice. The screen door creaked. Roland stepped out, slower now, cane in hand, still carrying quiet command. His voice was gravel and warmth. You made this family understand what service really means. I laughed softly. Took a few barbecues to do it. He chuckled. The sound faded into the hum of cicadas. Overhead, the roar of T-45 jets cut the sky. Their reflection flashed off the coin in Evan's hand. For a heartbeat, the porch glowed. I looked at the boy, then at the man who had once been my commander, and whispered, The ones who matter already know. The rest will catch up. The jets vanished into blue. Roland leaned back, eyes half closed. Evan stood straight, the coin bright in his palm. Honor lived on, not in speeches or medals, but in the quiet understanding that after all the storms, the sky still belonged to those who chose to fly.